Hey everyone, and welcome to Sketching with Sarah. I'm Sarah, and in today's video, we are going to be talking about how some horses grow mustaches. This is the type of video that I like to call Fun Fact Friday, where I find out a fun fact about an animal that really inspires me, and then I create a drawing to emphasize what I learn about them. So far, I have 3 other videos in this series, and I really want to continue to make more of these because I really do enjoy making them. You can find a playlist of all of my Fun Fact Friday videos up until now in the link in my description box, or I'll have the icon there for you to click to it at the end of this video. Everything on my channel is very animal inspired in some way, and you best believe that when I saw this Twitter post about horses that can actually grow mustaches, I did some more digging. There is a breed of horse called Gypsy Vanners, and they're known for their really long manes and tails and the hair over their hooves. Gypsy Vanners are not the only breed that can grow a mustache, but for the sake of this video, I will be referencing Gypsy Vanners for all of the sketching. Gypsy Vanners can also grow long hair on their necks that can grow longer than their chin, which is also a neat thing I found out about them. Basically, they can grow a beard. So here's a sketch I drew from a reference photo I found of a Gypsy Vanner, and the photographer did a perfect job capturing that majestic hair flowing and just how beautiful these animals are. The photographer's name is Mark J. Barrett, and I'll definitely link his website in the description for you to check out because all of his photos are just so beautiful. And I definitely wanted to give him credit because as I was looking for reference images, his photos definitely stood out. I'm strictly using these photographs for my own studying purposes, and I really don't have the intention to make an absolute copy of these photographs. I'm really just trying to study the forms and sketch them in my sketchbook. I always try to either take my own reference photos or do a lot of studies like these in my sketchbook before I jump into my own drawing. So at this point, I'm starting the sketch for my fancy Gypsy Vanner portrait. I'm using a purple colorized pencil to sketch out the general portrait, and if you've seen any of my other videos, you'll know that I stand by these things. Colorized pencils are just like regular pencils, they erase pretty good, but they're way less smeary and way more colorful, so what's not to like? There were a couple of things I for sure knew I wanted to have in this drawing before I got started, and that was a monocle, really flowy hair, and of course a mustache. I decided to add the top hat later on, and I'm really glad it made it into the sketch. I was having a lot of fun varying my line weight as much as I could with the colorized pencil. I did have to sharpen it quite a few times, but hey, that's just the nature of working with pencils, of course. When I do line art, I try to pay attention to what's in front of what, and whatever is in front, I make the line that indicated that a little thicker or a little darker to create more of a contrast, and thinner and lighter lines for what is behind it, if that makes sense. It is challenging sometimes when it's a rounded 3-dimensional shape you're trying to represent, and I probably could have done a lot better if I just went slower and really took my time, but especially once I started inking it, I just got wrapped up in that fluidity of the lines, and I kind of got lost there for a while. I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty therapeutic. If you have a brush pen or even a regular brush, try varying your pressure in and out in your sketchbook or in your next art piece. I don't know, I find it really soothing. After I had the preliminary sketch figured out, I jumped right in and started inking up this fancy sir. I usually use micron pens, and I do use them a bit in some of the finer lines of the hair, but I wanted to challenge myself and see just how far I could go with just the brush pen alone. I'm using the Prismacolor Premier brush tipped pen, that's a mouthful. And again, I tried to focus on varying that line weight a lot in the hair to really show off that impressively thick mane of theirs. I just can't get over how satisfying it is to use a brush tip pen. It is wetter than most technical pens like microns, so you do have to be extra careful to not smudge it while you're working. You do have to be a little bit careful with micron pens and other ink pens, but I noticed with this brush pen in particular, it's meant to have a more juicy flow to it, which is why it takes longer to dry. If you wanted to try out any of the art supplies I used at really any point in this video, or maybe if you're just curious to what equipment I use, I do have some affiliate links at the bottom of my description for you to check out if you're interested. I only put the supplies that I've actually used and you can see me using in the videos in my description box, so if you ever want to be art supplies twins, follow those links specifically, and if you decide to purchase anything, I get a tiny commission off of whatever you purchase. It doesn't cost you any extra, it just helps me out a bit. So basically it's like a win-win. You get cool art supplies and you're supporting my channel. Back to the drawing, after I got those main lines finished with my brush pen, I started using my smaller tipped micron pens to create more structured fine lines to again give more volume and dimension to the hair. Another thing I thought I'd mention is I had a lot of caffeine before I decided to film this, and as I was filming I was also listening to Kurtis Conner's podcast, So between laughing at the podcast and my jittery hands from the caffeine, I had to pause from the drawing quite a bit, but luckily since most of it is time-lapsed, you can't really notice most of it. But as I was working on it, I definitely noticed that as I was trying to do very smooth and crisp line weight variations, my hand would kind of wiggle a little bit at those thinner parts. So I had to try and slowly take a step back and go over it with my full focus on it. And that usually meant I had to pause the video and really focus so I could get the lines right. Kurtis, if you're watching this, I love your videos, man. And if anyone else here is watching and doesn't know of or follow or watch any of Kurtis Conner's content, what are you waiting for? He makes really self-aware puns all the time, and I live for them. I also really enjoy his editing style. It's just overall pretty entertaining. I also linked his YouTubes in the description as well, so please go check those out. Now I'll let you guys have a peaceful moment to watch this satisfying line art develop without my voice over it for a bit. Once I got most of the line art to where I was good with it, I decided I wanted to add a little bit more depth to separate the head from the hair even more. I have those massively aggressive thick lines, but I feel like it's not enough and it's just kind of distracting at this point. So last minute I decided to add shading onto it with some washes. So first I took my black Derwent watercolor pencil and lightly shaded where I wanted more depth in the portrait. The more I went over an area with the colored pencil, the more pigment will be in that area. So I have the option of making it darker here and there, however I see fit. I noticed that even though the watercolor pencil is black, when I added water to it, it did make a more bluish tone. Now that could be the combination of the ink that I've already been using bleeding into the water, or maybe a tiny bit of purple colorist pencil might have not been covered, so that kind of mixed in with it. Either way, I just thought I'd point that out because it is a much cooler and less neutral gray than one might expect. After that dried completely, I shaded another layer of watercolor pencil into the areas I wanted even deeper, or for areas that I wanted more of a cast shadow on, and went over it again with the water brush pens, and I repeated that until I felt satisfied enough. And there you have it. Here's a fancy, classy Gypsy Vanner in all his glory. You're welcome. Overall, I'm pretty satisfied with this drawing, and as always, I can find something to work on more. But for the first time in a while, I saw an animal fact like horses growing mustaches, and it made me so inspired that I actually wanted to get out of bed and make it come to life right away. If you've been keeping up with my videos here, you'll see that I had, what, a 6-part blob challenge series? I was fully aware that I was milking that silly challenge for all it's worth and beyond, because honestly, I just wasn't inspired to do anything else. As silly and as fun as that exercise was, for the meantime, it's learning cool things about animals that really inspired me to create great work. But even the animals I think I know everything about, the animals we can all identify as kids, I'm starting to appreciate them even more the more I study them through sketching them. Animals are a huge part of my art because I can never get tired of learning about them. To this day, I still learn about animals that I didn't even know existed. There's so many species out there, and if I can take a second to share and express what makes these animals so amazing, you best believe I will. I mean, pretty much everyone knows what a horse is, right? I grew up obsessed with them, if you couldn't tell. And now finding out that there are some breeds that can grow handlebar mustaches, why aren't more people talking about this? And that's what my Fun Fact Friday series is all about. Check out the other videos in this series in my playlist, in my description box, or in the icon at the end of this video. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe for more art-related content. Want to learn more about me? Check out my last video where I finally did the Meet the Artist tag. And if you've made it this far, please leave a comment to tell me whether or not you like horses. Do you have any experience with horses? I also want to know what's your favorite breed and why. As I've said several times, horses were a huge part of my childhood, so let's have that conversation below. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. after I finished, wow,